Come on. You're trying. Almost there. Well, this one ring is being a bit of a stinker. Ah, there we go. I think we got it now. Alright, so oop, careful of that. Stabbing myself in the hand. You guys will get to see some blood. It'll be good. Alright, there's that one. Now I got one more. Like I said, this isn't exactly the way I'd like to do it, but this is what you have to do sometimes if you don't have the stuff handy to you. If you have somebody you can borrow stuff from, you're good. Alright, there we go. We got that in there. Now our pistons are all in there. Just kind of wipe this oil off the top so it's not so slimy and hard to hold on to. We got that all in there. Now, I'm going to flip this over. And as we can see, we want to make sure that we still have our everything ready here. I'm going to rotate my crankshaft so that it can catch my connecting rod. I want to make sure that I oil all this stuff really well. So make sure everything's, you know, clean before you even start this, by the way, too, and try to keep it as clean as you can. So I like to put oil on everything. Like I said, beginning, doesn't hurt a single thing to do so. You just have to be conscious of what you're doing here. And so we're going to rotate this around, push the piston up, get it up here where we can work on it. And there we go. We're at the top now. We have the pistons all the way at the bottom of the cylinder. We're at this end of the stroke. Then we're going to take and line our rod cap back up. And I always double check everything. Hole in the cap goes towards our camshaft, which is still on this side. Make sure our mark here is on the connecting rod, which it is. So I didn't accidentally, that's something you need to pay attention to. If you rotate any of these parts, you'll have damage. This hole is very critical. It will just ruin your crankshaft in no time and your connecting rod. So put all that on there. Quick little note too, some of these connecting rods will have this little bracket here. It's a retainer for your bolts. Once these are tightened down and torqued, you'll bend the edges of this up and it stops the bolt from working loose. Other ones don't have this. They'll have just a bolt. Sometimes they'll have a lock washer on some of them. I've seen a little bit of everything through the years. It just kind of varies as the years went on. So just be kind of conscious, you know, if this thing looks like it's damaged to where, you know, look it over good. If it looks like any of these parts here where it's been bent is damaged enough that it's starting to crack, don't use it. Because if that piece breaks off in there and it gets stuck in between your bearing or your connecting rod somehow and the cylinder or the piston, it will destroy stuff. So just, you know, you can use the bolts without this and use a thin lock washer on it and some Loctite, like a red or blue Loctite, blue preferably. Red is so hard to get out later that I don't use it unless it's a really critical fastener that takes a lot of torque. But these, you know, we're going to do inch pounds, but still. So I'm going to reuse this one here because everything looked good. We're going to go ahead and put this together here. You should thread right in. So you're going to need a torque wrench that does inch pounds. There's several different types. I have an S&K one that I use quite often. That's a this type here, where you can adjust and dial the handle to whatever inch pounds you want, and then it clicks when you reach it. It's like a ratcheting style. There's gauge, like a gauge type one that has a little arm and an indicator on that just swipes back and forth. Those work well also. I used one of those for years before I got this. And that would look like this one here. It's just simply when you twist the flex the head to get to your torque, this arm moves to whatever inch pounds you're looking for, and you just kind of eyeball it on the gauge. I mean, as far as accuracy goes, it's probably not as accurate as this, but like I said, I used this for years and had great results with it, so it's not out of the question not to use it. And the old timers always used these on race cars years and years ago, so they do have their place. You know, it's older technology, but it works. So we're gonna need to torque these bolts that we just installed for the connecting rod cap. So we need to tighten those up. They need to be 140 inch-pounds if it's brand new. And considering this is used, it's recommended you go as much as 20% over that torque. So we're gonna do, I like to go to about 145, 148. I'm gonna do like about 148, 150 on this particular setup. So it's all, I got my torque wrench set already. Grab a 7/16 socket here. You'll want to double check these too. So you're going to snug both sides up first before you try to torque them. So you may want to lay this thing on its side. It's going to be much easier to do. So I'm just going to work up to the torque. I'm not going to torque one side first and then there's that one. And there's that one. Alright, so because I put engine oil on this before I put it together, I'm gonna let this set a couple minutes with that torque at it before I tighten this down, because what we're doing is we're gonna squash that oil. That oil's taking up space. So that oil needs to be compressed and moved out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take and lay this on its side so I can rotate it and the valves can open and close. And I want to turn this engine over by hand, which is going to be difficult because I got everything oily. Oh, I'll see if I can do it. I can't do it with this. I'm going to have to grab something here. We're just going to use very lightly grip on the end of the PTO side of this crank so I can get a hold of it. It's just all, I've got it so slimy now that, so I'm going to rotate this, go through a few times here. Alright, we're going to go back and check the torque again. Get it at an angle I can hold on to it here. Yep. Alright, I feel good about that. Pretty confident they're tight enough that they're good. So we're gonna go back like this. Now we need to bend these tabs up. Best way to do that is simply just use a pair of pliers, needle nose pliers, whatever. And just kind of roll them towards the head of the bolt, and all they have to do is compress against the head on one side so that bolt can't rotate loose. So we're going to go just like this. So when you're done, they're going to be, edges will be folded up against the flat of the bolt on each end, and that should do it. So that part's all done. So now what we're going to do is do the inside, or the side plate. So we can lay this up here like so, rotate this. Actually, we're going to rotate this again until we get that splasher below there, so if something happens it doesn't get broke. So that's another little tip. I actually have done that in the past on accident. Went to tip the engine and got away from me, whacked it and broke the end off. Then I was out a connecting rod, so you know that's no good. So anyways, make sure it's in below this surface, that way when you're flipping it around you don't accidentally break it. So we're gonna go here just like this. Our end plate here has another bearing in it, roller bearing here, and we have our mounts for our ignition coil. It has a new seal in it already. I already did this. We're going to do basically the same thing as the other side. I'm going to put a little oil on all of this. I have this keyway for the flywheels actually stuck in this, and I try to pull it out and I'm afraid I'm going to damage it and then I'll have to buy a new one. Just want to make sure it'll clear the seal just fine. You just want to be conscious of it if it's there so you don't accidentally catch the seal on the ends of this, because they